Let's talk about how the internet works. Simply put, the internet is a network or group of computers. These computers are connected either with wires like fiber optic cables or Ethernet cables, or they can also be connected wirelessly by sending radio waves to each other. And this network of computers spans across the entire globe through these cables and radio waves and uses a system of rules called TCP/IP so that communication is organized and formatted consistently between the computers. At the time of this recording, while there are billions of devices connected to the internet, only about a third of the humans on the planet have access on a regular basis. But the internet usage has grown rapidly, where in 1994, only 3% of US classrooms had the internet, and by 2002, that number rose to 92%. It's like the planet has, for the first time, a central nervous system where someone on one part of the world can share their information and know exactly what someone in a completely different part of the world knows. A computer scientist by the name of Tim Berners-Lee is credited for inventing the World Wide Web back in 1989 when he created it as a way for scientists to communicate while working at CERN, a nuclear research lab in Europe. So how exactly does the internet work? Each device or computer that's connected to this network of computers has an IP address, which is just a set of numbers and dots. The main piece of software that we use on these computers to connect to other computers on the network is an application we call the web browser. While many other applications can also connect to the internet, like video games, email applications, file sharing applications, the browser is one of the most commonly used. The browser uses HTTP to send and receive hypertext, which is just text that contains links to other text. And HTTP is just a protocol or set of rules that sits on top of the TCP/IP set of rules to move text from one computer to another through the cables and through wireless means. There are many types of browsers, but the major browsers are Internet Explorer, Mozilla's Firefox, Google Chrome, Opera, and Safari by Apple. All of these browsers work generally in the same way, in that you enter an IP address in the address bar, and then the browser sends a request to that particular computer with that address. But since IP addresses are hard to remember and fairly ugly, we use domain names instead, like google.com or facebook.com. There's a popular name for this idea of connecting one computer to another on a network and retrieving information, and it's called the client-server relationship. So we're using our personal computer, which is called the client, or the browser application that's installed on the computer, which is also called the client, and we're retrieving information from another computer on the network or on the internet. And that computer that we're retrieving the information from is called the server. So the word server refers to a computer or a cluster of computers that are designed to respond to client requests. Servers don't typically look like personal computers or laptops, but more like boxes, and they reside in data centers all across the globe. For example, here's a picture of Google's first servers. While you could use your own personal computer or laptop as a server, it probably wouldn't be ideal. Professional servers are designed to respond to client requests, usually thousands or millions of client requests at the same time. Think about how many people are on the google.com webpage right now. While you can buy and manage your own set of servers, typically companies that aren't very large corporations rent from other companies like GoDaddy and Rackspace. These are called web hosting companies that own and manage servers all across the world and rent them out for people to use. So to summarize, when we use our personal computers and enter an address like CNN.com into the browser, our computer, which is also known as the client, sends a request into the internet and looks for a computer that matches the same domain name as CNN.com. And remember, CNN.com would translate into some IP address. So once it finds a computer with that IP address, that computer, which is called the server, then responds back with hypertext as well as any images or videos and sends that response back to the client. Now, as web developers, our job is to write software or code that we store on servers. We have to make sure that when a client makes a request to our servers, that our software then sends back the proper response. Usually that response consists of hypertext, but it can also consist of other forms of data. Now keep in mind, hypertext is written with a language called HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. While we can build a basic website just by storing HTML files on a server, we'll need to rely on programming languages like Ruby or Python or PHP so that we can do more complex interactions with the user. Before we get into all of that, we'll start with learning some basic HTML and build up from there.